It started with a single post. No caption, just a picture: Jasmine Washington holding what looked like a stack of papers. The kind that makes your heart drop before you even know what's inside. Within minutes, the internet was in chaos. Fans flooded the comments, tagging Rasheeda, tagging Kirk, tagging everybody connected to Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Was Jasmine really back? And if so, what did she have in her hands that could tear down everything Kirk and Rasheeda built? For years, viewers watched the Frost family fight to rebuild their marriage after Kirk's cheating scandal with Jasmine first blew up on national television. Rasheeda forgave him, or at least tried to. They renewed their vows, expanded their business, and acted like the past was buried. But in the shadows, people whispered that Jasmine was never really gone. She stayed quiet, raising her son, watching everything from a distance. And now, it looks like she's finally had enough of the narrative being once. The timing couldn't be worse. Just days ago, Rasheeda had been celebrating the anniversary of her pressed boutique with friends, posting glowing tributes about love, loyalty, and growth. Kirk was right there beside her, smiling for photos like a man who had conquered his demons. But when Jasmine reappeared, that illusion shattered overnight. Because those receipts, she teased, they weren't vague screenshots or fan rumors. Sources close to her say she's got emails, text messages, and allegedly recordings that could expose Kirk in ways nobody saw coming. Social media went into overdrive. Fans started revisiting old episodes, pointing out signs Rasheeda might have ignored. "He's been lying again," one user tweeted. "I knew something was off the way he avoided eye contact last season." Another wrote, "If Jasmine drops the real proof, VH1 needs to bring her back ASAP." Everyone had an opinion, but only Jasmine knew the truth, and she was ready to tell it, in her own words. What makes this even more explosive is how Rasheeda reportedly reacted. According to a source close to the couple, she didn't wait to call Kirk out privately. Word is, she packed a bag and left their Atlanta home the night Jasmine's post went live. Cameras weren't rolling, but insiders say it felt like a scene straight out of a reunion special. Rasheeda's silence online since then has fans convinced she's either preparing her own statement or hiding the heartbreak that's about to unfold in public all over again. And that's where the story begins, not in the past, but in the messy, unpredictable present. Because if what Jasmine's about to reveal is real, Kirk and Rasheeda's picture-perfect comeback might just crumble for good. As the Frost family's legacy hangs in the balance, fans are asking the same burning question: is this Jasmine's revenge, or is it finally her truth? One thing's certain, this time, nobody's walking away unscathed. Under the hazy Atlanta skyline, Kirk Frost sat in his black Escalade, phone in hand, scrolling through his notifications like a man waiting for a bomb to drop. Jasmine Washington's name was everywhere, on blogs, in Instagram comments, trending on Twitter. Fans were dissecting every post, every rumor, every half-remembered scene from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta like detectives. He could feel his heart thudding in his chest. That old sense of panic he thought he'd buried years ago crawling back to the surface. He had promised Rasheeda he was done with the drama, that his days of slipping up were behind him, but here it was again, circling back like karma with perfect timing. Inside their house, Rasheeda was pacing the living room, her phone buzzing nonstop. She hadn't posted in 2 days. For someone whose brand depended on staying visible, that silence spoke louder than any caption could. When Kirk walked in, she didn't even look up. "You seeing this?" she asked flatly, eyes glued to the TV where a gossip show was already replaying Jasmine's Instagram story for the 5th time. Jasmine's voice filled the room, calm, deliberate, and dangerous. "I kept quiet for years," she said in the clip, "but I won't be disrespected anymore. I have proof." Kirk rubbed his temples. "She's bluffing," he muttered, trying to sound confident, but his tone gave him away. Rasheeda turned toward him, eyes narrowing. "Proof of what, Kirk?" Her question hung heavy in the air. She wanted to believe him, but something inside her had shifted. She'd been through this before, the same excuses, the same public humiliation, the same tears. The difference this time was that Jasmine wasn't coming back for sympathy. She was coming back for vindication. By the next morning, blogs had already pieced together a timeline. Jasmine had reportedly been working with a popular podcaster, preparing a tele-episode that would clear her name once and for all. Fans were buzzing with anticipation, and VH1 insiders were reportedly panicking, unsure whether the network should intervene or sit back and watch the chaos unfold. One anonymous producer even claimed the Frost family had been approached for a follow-up reality special months ago but turned it down now. That decision was haunting them. Meanwhile, Jasmine sat in a downtown cafe, scrolling through her phone, watching the storm she'd unleashed. Her best friend, Tamara, leaned across the table, whispering, "Girl, you sure you ready for this? You know they gon' come for you." Jasmine took a slow sip of her coffee and smiled faintly. "They've been coming for me," she replied. "This time, I'm fighting back." She opened her laptop, revealing a neatly organized folder labeled receipts. Inside were messages, screenshots, voice notes, photos, each one a fragment of a story she'd kept quiet for too long. When the podcast dropped, it broke the internet. Jasmine's voice was steady but emotional. She talked about the nights she spent crying alone, the way Kirk promised he'd handle things, and how he kept telling her to trust the process. She even played snippets of voice messages allegedly from Kirk, his tone familiar, pleading, and tired. "You gotta chill, Jasmine," the voice said. "I'm working on fixing it. You gon' mess up everything if you keep talking." Listeners were stunned. Within hours, #KirkExposed was trending worldwide. Rasheeda watched the episode in silence. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, phone in hand, listening to her husband's voice echo from another woman's story. When it ended, she stood up slowly, walked to the window, and whispered to herself, "So this is what truth sounds like." Kirk walked in a few minutes later, clearly avoiding her gaze. "Babe, you know how they do edit, twist, make it sound worse than it is." Rasheeda turned to him, eyes cold. "Tell me one thing that was edited," she said quietly. He didn't answer. That night, she left. Not a dramatic exit with cameras or shouting, just quiet, deliberate movement. She packed a bag, grabbed her keys, and drove off without saying a word. Fans started noticing her absence almost immediately. By morning, bloggers were posting exclusive tips that Rasheeda was staying in a hotel under a fake name. One anonymous source claimed she had met with her old manager to discuss a solo reality deal. Others said she was seen crying in her car outside her boutique. Whatever the truth, it was clear the Frost Empire was cracking. As the backlash intensified, Jasmine posted again. This time, it was a screenshot of an email, allegedly from Kirk, dated just months ago. The message read, "I'm trying to keep things peaceful, but you making it hard. Let's not do this again. Please think about the boy." Fans exploded in the comments. Was Kirk still in contact with Jasmine all this time? If so, what did that mean for his so-called redemption arc? Across town, Kirk's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His label, his friends, even VH1 reps wanted statements. No comment, he repeated like a broken record. The network was torn. Do they protect one of their biggest couples or ride the wave of ratings chaos? Meanwhile, Rasheeda's sister, Quisha, went live on Instagram, adding fuel to the fire. "My sister been holding this man down for years," she said. "She forgave him when she shouldn't have, and this how he repays her. Y'all about to see the real Kirk Frost, not the one he plays for TV." By the end of the week, Jasmine's following had doubled. She was being invited to interviews, offered brand deals, and showered with both hate and support. But beneath her calm online presence, she was struggling. In one quiet moment, Tamara caught her staring at her son's photo on her phone. "You okay?" Tamara asked softly. Jasmine nodded, though her eyes glistened. "I didn't do this to hurt nobody," she said, almost to herself. "I just want people to know I wasn't lying. I was never the villain." But the internet doesn't care about truth, it cares about chaos. Fans began taking sides again, digging up old clips, turning private pain into meme. The narrative shifted every hour. One minute Jasmine was praised for standing up for herself. The next she was dragged for clout chasing. Kirk tried to issue an apology video, mumbling about misunderstandings and old wounds, but it only made things worse. Comments poured in calling him manipulative, fake, and the king of gas. Rasheeda stayed quiet, and that silence became its own headline. Rasheeda ghosting social media. Sources say divorce may be imminent. Paparazzi caught her walking into a lawyer's office 2 days later, wearing sunglasses and no wedding ring. The image went viral. People began speculating about prenups, assets, and who would keep their businesses. VH1 executives reportedly started fast-tracking a reunion special to capture the fallout. This wasn't just reality TV anymore, it was real-life unraveling in front of millions. Still, deep down, Kirk believed he could fix it. He always did. One night, he showed up outside Rasheeda's hotel with flowers and a camera crew following discreetly behind, hoping for a reconciliation moment. But when she opened the door and saw him standing there, her face hardened. "You really brought cameras?" she asked, her voice quiet but sharp. He lowered the bouquet slowly. "They wanted to document it." "The comeback?" She shook her head. "There's no comeback, Kirk. Not this time." She closed the door, and for the first time, Kirk didn't chase after her. Back in her hotel room, Rasheeda sat on the bed, scrolling through old photos, anniversaries, birthdays, family trips, smiling faces, hiding years of exhaustion. She exhaled deeply, wiped a tear, and whispered, "Let them film whatever they want. I'm done being the storyline." Outside, the crew packed up, the night settling heavy with finality. But across the city, Jasmine's phone buzzed again, another message request. This time from a name that made her pause before opening it. It was from someone unexpected, someone who had stayed silent for years. And their first words read, "It's time we talk about the real truth." And just like that, the storm that had already torn through Atlanta was about to get even darker. Jasmine stared at the message for several seconds before her fingers moved. The sender was Kirk's oldest friend, Tony. Someone who had always played the role of the quiet observer, rarely speaking but always watching. His name popping up now felt like a ghost resurfacing. "What do you mean the real truth?" She typed back quickly. A few moments later, the typing dots appeared. "Meet me tonight, 9 p.m. Same spot from 2018. Jasmine's pulse quickened. That spot wasn't random, it was the same diner where she and Kirk used to meet when everything was still hidden from the world. She hesitated, her friend Tamara watching from the couch. "Who's that?" Jasmine showed her the screen. Tamara frowned. "Girl, that's trouble. Don't go." Jasmine bit her lip. "If he knows something, I need to hear it." She felt the same knot in her stomach she'd felt years ago when the truth first started unraveling. But curiosity won again. She knew she couldn't let it go. Meanwhile, across Atlanta, Rasheeda sat in her car, outside her boutique. The parking lot empty, except for a few streetlights flickering. Her phone buzzed a text from her mother, Shalene. "You okay, baby? You don't have to be strong for everyone." Rasheeda sighed. For once, she didn't want to be strong. She missed the time before the fame, before the cameras, when love didn't feel like a headline. She started typing a reply but stopped halfway. Instead, she put her phone down and looked at the reflection of herself in the rearview mirror. "Who am I even doing this for anymore?" she whispered. Back in the diner, Jasmine arrived early. She sat in a booth near the back, hood up, scanning the door. The place smelled like old coffee and fried food, the same as it did years ago. At 9:10, Tony walked in, glancing around before spotting her. He slid into the booth, lowering his voice. "You really blew this up, huh?" Jasmine crossed her arms. "I told the truth." Tony shook his head slowly. "Maybe part of it, but there's stuff you don't know." Jasmine leaned forward. "Like what?" He hesitated, looking uneasy. "You think Kirk was running everything. He wasn't. There were producers involved. VH1 knew more than they ever let on. They set y'all up from day one." Jasmine frowned, confused. "Set us up?" Tony nodded. "You were ratings gold. The baby scandal, the fallout, Rasheeda's tears, it was all mapped out. Kirk didn't even want to bring you on the show, but the network made him. Said it would redeem his image. They promised him it would be controlled. But when it blew up, they left him to take the fall." Jasmine blinked, absorbing every word. "So you're saying the network used all of us?" He nodded again. "And they're still doing it. That's why, Jasmine, be careful. They'll twist this too." As she left the diner, Jasmine's mind raced. If what Tony said was true, this wasn't just about Kirk anymore, it was about the entire system that thrived on their pain. But as she got into her car, another notification popped up on her screen. An unknown number had sent her a video. When she pressed play, her hands began to shake. It was a clip from years ago, unseen footage from behind the scenes of Love and Hip Hop. It showed a producer telling Kirk, "If you admit to the affair on camera, we'll make sure Jasmine gets a check too. Everyone wins." The video cut off abruptly, but it was enough. It proved manipulation at the top. Hours later, social media erupted again. Jasmine had leaked the video. Blogs went wild with headlines like VH1 exposed for manufacturing, Frost drama, and reality show OR scripted scandal. Fans who once blamed Jasmine were now calling her a whistleblower. Hashtags like #JusticeForJasmine and #VH1 lies trended for days. But behind closed doors, the network was furious. Legal teams started contacting her, warning her about breach of contract and defamation. Jasmine didn't care. She'd already gone too far to turn back. Rasheeda saw the clip too, and for the first time, her anger wasn't just at Kirk, it was at the entire machine that had turned their marriage into entertainment. She called Kirk. He answered, his voice low. "I saw it," he said before she could speak. There was a long pause. "We were puppets," she finally said. He exhaled. "Yeah, and we let them pull the strings." For the first time in years, their conversation wasn't filled with blame, it was quiet, almost sad. "What do we even do now?" she asked. Kirk didn't answer right away. "Maybe we tell our side," he said. "For real this time. Meanwhile, Jasmine's safety started feeling uncertain. She noticed cars parked near her house, unfamiliar faces showing up where she shopped. Tamara urged her to stay with family for a while, but Jasmine refused. "They can try to scare me," she said firmly, "but I'm not backing down." That night, she went live on Instagram. Over 50,000 viewers joined instantly. She sat in front of a plain background, no makeup, no filters. "This isn't about clout," she said softly. "This is about truth. They made us fight, they made us look crazy, and they got rich doing it. I was quiet because I was scared, but not anymore." The live stream broke 1 million views within hours. Comments poured in from fans, celebrities, and even former cast members backing her up. But just as the tide seemed to turn in Jasmine's favor, a new twist hit the internet. A gossip blogger leaked supposed court documents claiming Jasmine had been receiving secret payments from Kirk's company until last year. Instantly, the narrative shifted again. People began questioning her motives. "So she's been cashing checks this whole time," one commenter wrote. "Sounds like she played the long game." Jasmine felt her stomach drop when she saw it. She called Kirk, furious. "You still been paying me off?" she demanded. Kirk sounded stunned. "No, I swear I stopped that years ago. If money moved, it wasn't me." She hung up, shaking. Within minutes, Tamara texted her, "Check your email." Jasmine opened it and froze. It was an anonymous message with a single line, "You're getting close to something they don't want out." Attached was a photo of a meeting, a VH1 executive, a lawyer, and Kirk's old manager sitting around a table. The date stamp was recent. Meanwhile, Rasheeda began piecing things together. She started making calls, contacting old crew members who'd left the show. One former assistant producer told her off the record, "We were told to push the cheating storyline no matter what. They said the Frost marriage was our goal." Rasheeda's stomach twisted. For years she'd carried guilt, wondering if forgiving Kirk made her look weak. Now she realized she'd been part of a setup that was never meant to heal it, was meant to bleed drama for ratings. The next day, Kirk showed up at her boutique unannounced. "We gotta talk," he said. Rasheeda folded her arms. "About what?" "Damage control." He shook his head. "About getting our story back." She hesitated. "And Jasmine?" He looked down. "We all got used. All three of us. And maybe the only way to stop this mess is to tell it together." The idea seemed impossible. Yet something about it felt right. For the first time, Kirk wasn't defending himself, he was ready to face the mess head on. Later that week, Jasmine received a message from Rasheeda herself. Just 5 words. "We need to meet. Alone." The two women hadn't spoken directly in years. The air. Alone. The two women hadn't spoken directly in years. The air. Chasing. Kirk tried to issue a vague between them was heavy with history, pain, and unfinished conversations. Jasmine read the message over and over before replying. "Tell me when." The meeting was set for Sunday night. The world didn't know yet, but something was shifting beneath the surface. For years, they had been rivals in a story neither of them truly controlled. Now, for the first time, they were about to face each other not as enemies, but as women who finally saw the truth for what it was. And as they prepared for that meeting, one thing became clear: this saga was far from over. Sunday night arrived heavy with tension. Atlanta was quiet, the streets still glistening from an evening rain. Jasmine parked her car a few blocks away from the small private lounge Rasheeda had chosen for their meeting. She sat for a moment, her hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing in and out slowly. She wasn't sure what to expect. Would Rasheeda come in peace, or was this about confrontation? After years of silence, resentment, and rumors, both women were walking into uncharted territory. Inside, Rasheeda was already seated in a corner booth, dressed simply. No cameras, no makeup crew. Just her and a glass of water. She looked calm, but her fingers tapped against the table like her nerves were on edge. When Jasmine walked in, their eyes met instantly. The room seemed to freeze. Jasmine approached cautiously, her voice low. "Hey." Rasheeda nodded slightly. "Hey." For a few seconds, they just stood there, the weight of years between them filling the silence. Finally, Rasheeda gestured to the seat across from her. "Sit. We need to talk like grown women." Jasmine sat down, and for a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Rasheeda broke the silence. "I saw the clip you leaked, the producers, the setup, all of it." Jasmine nodded. "It's real. I didn't want to believe it either." Rasheeda's expression hardened. "You know how much that show cost me? Not just my marriage, my peace. Every time we filmed, they'd tell me to act hurt or say that line again with more emotion. It wasn't healing, it was humiliation." Jasmine sighed. "I know. I felt the same. They made me out to be the villain while they let Kirk play the victim trying to fix his family. Rasheeda leaned back, her voice quieter now. When I left the house last week, I wasn't even mad at you. I was mad at the machine that turned us into headlines. Jasmine looked up, surprised. So why call me here? Rasheeda's eyes locked on hers. Because we can't let them control the story anymore. Not you, not me, not even Kirk. They built empires off our pain, and we just let them. Jasmine frowned slightly. What are you saying? Rasheeda hesitated, then said firmly, I'm saying we take control. We tell the truth. The idea hung in the air like a spark. Jasmine didn't answer right away. She had dreamed of being heard, of having her side told without bias. But joining forces with Rasheeda, the woman who had once publicly called her a liar, felt surreal. Why would you trust me? Jasmine asked quietly. Rasheeda's lips curved into a sad smile. Because I finally realized you were never my enemy. Before either could say more, Jasmine's phone buzzed on the table. A notification flashed across the screen. VH1 releases official statement. Both women leaned over to read it. The statement was long, defensive, and dismissive, claiming that Jasmine's claims were exaggerated, that creative liberties were a normal part of reality production, and that all parties were compensated fairly. Jasmine's jaw tightened. They're calling us liars again. Rasheeda's tone hardened. Then we hit back harder. That night, word leaked that Jasmine and Rasheeda had met privately. Fans lost their minds. Tweets poured in, predicting everything from a reconciliation to a joint lawsuit. Kirk, meanwhile, was blindsided. He found out through social media like everyone else. Sitting alone in his home office, he scrolled through the chaos, his heart sinking as he read a headline. Rasheeda and Jasmine unite against VH1. Kirk left out. For once, he was the outsider in his own story. The next day, Jasmine and Rasheeda met again, this time at a quiet co-working studio owned by a mutual friend. They decided to record a joint video, a raw, unfiltered conversation between the two women. No producers, no scripts, just the truth. As the cameras rolled, Rasheeda spoke first. We've been enemies on TV for years, but that wasn't real. It was ratings. They pitted us against each other, and we fell for it. Jasmine nodded, adding, they made me feel like I had to stay quiet to protect myself, but all it did was keep the lie alive. The clip went viral within hours. Fans called it historic, powerful, the moment love and hip-hop finally told the truth. Celebrities chimed in, praising both women for their strength. Even people who once dragged Jasmine began apologizing in the comments. But not everyone was happy. VH1 executives scrambled to issue cease and desist letters, warning both women about contractual obligations. The threat didn't work. Jasmine posted the letter online with the caption, "Silencing women for profit stops now." That move changed everything. Major media outlets picked up the story. News anchors discussed it like it was a cultural turning point. Talk shows invited them both to speak. And in a strange twist, even Kirk's name began trending again, but not as the villain this time. Instead, people were asking where he stood. Was he part of the movement, or still loyal to the network that had used them? Kirk sat at home, the walls of his living room filled with old photos, wedding pictures, family events, and press shots that now looked like artifacts from a different life. His phone rang. It was his friend Tony. You see what they doing? Tony asked. Man, they shake in the industry. Kirk sighed. Yeah, but I don't even know where I fit in anymore. Tony hesitated. Maybe this time, just listen. Don't control it. Let the truth talk. A few nights later, Kirk made his move. He went live on Instagram, visibly nervous, voice trembling at first. I messed up, he said plainly. Not just in my marriage, but in how I let the world see us. I thought keeping quiet would protect my family, but it only made things worse. They used us all, and I played my part in that. So, to my wife, to Jasmine, to everyone watching, I'm sorry. The live hit 1 million viewers within 20 minutes. Comments flooded in. Some doubted him, others thanked him. But one thing was clear: the Frost saga had finally shifted from scandal to accountability. Back at Jasmine's apartment, she watched the live with tears in her eyes. He finally said it. She whispered. Tamara smiled softly beside her. Took him long enough. Meanwhile, Rasheeda was in her kitchen, phone propped up on the counter, watching too. When Kirk said her name, her expression softened just a little. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the first step toward it. The next morning, Jasmine and Rasheeda woke up to a flood of media requests. Netflix wanted a documentary. Talk shows offered exclusive appearances. Brands that once dropped them were now reaching out with supportive partnerships. It was surreal. The same world that tore them down was now cheering for their unity. Still, both women agreed to one thing: they wouldn't let anyone else edit their story again. As the dust settled, VH1 quietly removed several old episodes from streaming platforms, claiming licensing issues. Insiders said it was a desperate attempt to control damage. But the truth was already out there, and there was no putting it back. Jasmine and Rasheeda had done what nobody thought possible. They'd turned their pain into power. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, even Kirk began to change, choosing silence over spin, reflection over reputation. But just when it seemed like closure was finally within reach, Jasmine received another anonymous message late one night. It contained a single image, a behind-the-scenes photo of the three of them, her, Kirk, and Rasheeda, taken years ago. On the back, scrawled in bold marker, were the words, "You only told half the story." Jasmine's chest tightened. She zoomed in on the picture and noticed something she'd never seen before: a man standing in the corner. Blurred but familiar. She didn't recognize him immediately, but something about that shadowed figure told her truth wasn't finished, revealing itself. And in that instant, the peace that had started to form began to crack again, hinting that the final reckoning was still ahead. And this time, no one would be spared. The next morning, Atlanta woke to chaos. Headlines screamed about Jasmine and Rasheeda's viral collaboration. But underneath the celebration, a new storm was brewing. The mysterious figure from the photo had reached out to Jasmine directly, a private message on an encrypted app. It read only, "Meet me, midnight, alone, if you want the full story." Jasmine's hands trembled as she read it, her coffee forgotten on the counter. Tamara leaned over, eyes wide. "Girl, this is getting dangerous. Are you sure you want to go?" Jasmine closed her laptop slowly. "I need to know. This could change everything." As night fell, she drove to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. The streets were empty, fog creeping across the asphalt. She parked a few blocks away, heart pounding, and approached on foot, hood pulled low. Inside, the place smelled like rust and dust. At the far end, the figure stepped forward, a tall man, face shadowed. "Jasmine Washington," he said, voice calm but firm. "You're finally ready to see what's been happening behind the cameras." He handed her a thick envelope. Inside were dozens of documents, photos, and recordings. "These were never meant to see the light of day," he explained. Jasmine flipped through them. Emails between producers, secretly recorded meetings, contracts that explicitly stated how storylines should be manipulated. They were all here. Every betrayal, every calculated twist, every lie orchestrated for ratings. She realized the full scale of the deception. Kirk and Rasheeda were pawns in a game they'd never understood. Meanwhile, Rasheeda was at home, scrolling through social media when her phone rang. It was Kirk. "They're planning something else," he said, voice urgent. "Jasmine just got something big, something that could blow the whole network up. We need to prepare." Rasheeda's stomach churned. "Prepare how? We've been honest this whole time." Kirk hesitated. "Maybe honesty isn't enough this time. They won't play fair." Back in the warehouse, Jasmine and the shadowed man reviewed the files. One recording caught her off guard. It was a conversation between Kirk and a producer, discussing ways to keep Rasheeda distracted while certain scenes were manipulated to maximize drama. Jasmine's mind raced. This wasn't just exploitation. This was orchestrated deception at every level. She realized why the network had always protected Kirk publicly, why Rasheeda's forgiveness was so heavily documented, why her own silence had been painted as guilt. As she left the warehouse, phone buzzing nonstop, she got a text from Rasheeda, "We need to talk." Now, Jasmine pulled into the same private lounge they'd met before. Rasheeda was already there, a sense of urgency in her eyes. "Did you see it?" Rasheeda asked. Jasmine nodded, setting the envelope on the table. "Everything. They planned it all. They made us enemies. They used our families, our careers, for views." Rasheeda's hands trembled slightly. "So all those arguments, the fights we thought were just us, it was scripted." Jasmine shook her head. "We were real, but they framed it. Every angle, every cut, every episode, they painted the chaos they wanted." Kirk arrived moments later, hesitant. The weight of years hit him like a ton of bricks. "I thought I was protecting you," he said quietly. "I never knew how deep it went." Rasheeda didn't answer. She just looked at him, her eyes heavy. Jasmine spoke up. "It wasn't just about protecting us, it was about controlling the narrative, and we're finally free to tell it our way." The three of them spent the night piecing together a plan. They decided to create a joint video, not for ratings, not for fame, but to expose the truth. It would include everything: the documents, recordings, emails, and their personal reflections. The risk was enormous. Legal threats, public backlash, even personal safety were on the line. But for the first time in years, they felt empowered, united in purpose. The next day, social media was buzzing. Teasers of the joint statement were leaked, and fans speculated endlessly. Some were thrilled at the prospect of seeing the truth. Others warned of backlash. Inside the Frost household, tensions were high. Kirk's lawyer was on the phone non-stop, trying to prepare for the inevitable storm. Rasheeda's team scrambled to coordinate security and media logistics. Jasmine, however, remained calm. Her focus laser-sharp. She knew what was at stake and refused to be intimidated. By evening, the video dropped. It was raw, emotional, and unfiltered. Fans watched as Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk each spoke directly to the camera. "We've been manipulated for too long," Jasmine began. "Our pain was entertainment. Our lives, a script we didn't write," Rasheeda added. "We forgave, we cried, we fought, but it was always under someone else's control. No more." Kirk's voice, shaky at first, continued. "We're done letting others define our story. This is our truth." Within minutes, the clip went viral. Millions watched, retweeted, and discussed. Hashtags like #TruthOverRatings and #FrostSaga explained dominated social media. Celebrities and journalists called it unprecedented, calling it a historic moment for reality television. Fans praised the courage of all three, acknowledging how much risk and bravery it took to speak so openly. But amid the celebration, the shadow of the anonymous figure who had delivered the documents lingered. New messages arrived for Jasmine. "This isn't over. Bigger secrets are coming." She stared at her phone, her stomach tightening. She realized that while the video had changed the public story, the real story, the one behind the cameras, still had layers yet to be revealed. In that moment, Rasheeda and Kirk exchanged a look. Years of betrayal, misunderstanding, and media manipulation had brought them to this point. They had survived the worst the industry could throw at them. Yet the fight for full truth, for justice, was still ongoing. Together, the three of them sat quietly, understanding that while the world had seen part of their story, the depth of reality, the true betrayal, and the full reckoning were only just beginning. And as Atlanta slept that night, fans around the world waited with bated breath, knowing that whatever came next, the Frost saga was far from over, and this time, no one would be able to script their lives without their consent. The following week, the fallout intensified. Social media platforms were flooded with debates, opinion videos, and think pieces analyzing every word from Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk's joint statement. Fans dissected body language, tone, and even wardrobe choices, trying to read hidden meanings. TV networks scrambled to get their own coverage, calling it the reality TV revelation of the decade. Yet amidst the chaos, the trio was still strategizing, realizing that exposure alone wasn't enough. They had uncovered the skeletons behind the cameras, but the fight for control over their narrative was just beginning. Jasmine spent hours going through the documents the shadowed man had given her. One email in particular caught her eye. It was from a senior producer, detailing instructions to heighten marital tension during reunion specials. It explicitly mentioned scenes where Kirk would apologize publicly, but privately continue affairs, ensuring viewers would remain emotionally hooked. Jasmine felt her stomach churn. The manipulation had been deliberate, systematic, and, worst of all, profitable for everyone except them. She called Tamara, voice trembling. "They built an empire off our lives. Every heartbreak, every fight, was money in their pocket." Tamara nodded quietly. "And now you're about to show everyone." Rasheeda, meanwhile, coordinated with legal counsel. They wanted to ensure that any further exposure wouldn't backfire. For her, it wasn't about revenge, it was about reclaiming dignity. She also reached out to former cast members, who were now willing to speak anonymously. One revealed, "We were all told to exaggerate fights, to push jealousy angles, to manipulate the camera for maximum drama. It wasn't real, it was a narrative they controlled." Rasheeda felt a mix of anger and vindication. Years of personal attacks and public judgment had been orchestrated, and now she had proof. Kirk's role became more complicated. He wanted to support both women, but also reconcile with the fallout of his own actions. Fans were divided, some praising his honesty in the joint video, others criticizing him for years of complicity. He spent hours on calls with advisors and family members, realizing that even his intentions couldn't erase the damage done. Yet for the first time, he felt like an equal participant in telling the truth. not just a performer in someone else's story. The next public step was crucial. Jasmine proposed a live panel discussions streamed globally, with journalists, influencers, and experts, but with all three narrating their experiences directly. The planning was meticulous: no scripts, no producers, and no interference. They rehearsed talking points, clarified boundaries, and discussed potential legal risks. Yet even with preparation, a palpable tension remained. After all, this was the first time in years that they controlled the cameras, not the other way around. On the night of the panel, fans logged in by the millions. The trio sat together on a stage, intimate but poised. Jasmine started, voice steady. For years, our lives were manipulated for entertainment. We were portrayed as villains, victims, or heroes, depending on what would get the highest ratings. Rasheeda followed. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was structural. Producers, networks, editors, they all profited while we paid the emotional cost. Kirk added, I participated, I made mistakes, and I was complicit, but I want the truth out there now, without spin, without control from anyone else. The reactions were instantaneous. Social media exploded. Clips of the panel were shared endlessly. Memes, debates, and commentary flooded every platform. Some praised the courage of the trio, calling it groundbreaking. Others questioned motives, claiming opportunism. But for those who had followed the story for years, this was cathartic. The closure and honesty were unprecedented. Yet, even as the public discourse raged, a deeper thread emerged. Anonymous tips continued to reach Jasmine, suggesting that certain producers were attempting to suppress documents or intimidate whistleblowers. One tip included a photo of a meeting in downtown Atlanta, showing familiar figures whispering in dark corners. Jasmine shared it with Rasheeda and Kirk. Rasheeda's face hardened. They're scared now, she said. We're hitting too close to home. Kirk nodded. And that's why we need to be strategic. Exposure without planning could backfire. Amid this, a surprising development occurred. Former cast members began publicly supporting the trio. One revealed in a podcast interview, I've never spoken before because I feared retaliation, but seeing Jasmine and Rasheeda take control, I realize it's time the truth comes out. We were all part of the manipulation machine. This opened doors for more testimonies, creating a domino effect that threatened to expose systemic practices behind the show itself. Meanwhile, the Frost family's personal lives were under scrutiny. Friends, neighbors, and even distant relatives were approached by media outlets. The pressure was immense. Rasheeda took steps to protect her children's privacy, while Kirk worked to repair damaged relationships within his family. Jasmine focused on her son, ensuring he remained shielded from the public storm. Together, the trio navigated an increasingly complex web of media attention, legal risks, and personal reconciliation. The crescendo came when a major entertainment network announced a special investigation into reality TV manipulation, citing the Frost case as a primary example. Reporters called it a watershed moment for transparency in the industry. The public narrative shifted. Instead of solely blaming the individuals, attention turned to structural exploitation. Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk were now seen as whistleblowers, not just subjects of scandal. Yet, despite the progress, the anonymous figure who first delivered the documents remained a mystery. New messages kept arriving, each promising more revelations. The trio realized that while they had reclaimed control, they hadn't uncovered the full extent of manipulation. Someone, somewhere, still held pieces of the puzzle that could redefine everything they thought they knew. And so, as Atlanta buzzed with speculation, the Frost trio prepared for the next chapter. What had started as personal vindication had grown into a battle against an industry that thrived on their pain. Every interview, every live session, every leaked document was a step toward exposing the truth. But they understood that the journey was far from over, and that the final reckoning, both public and personal, was still ahead, waiting for the next twist to unfold. As the weeks passed, the Frost trio began connecting the dots that extended far beyond what they initially imagined. Jasmine spent hours analyzing the documents, cross-referencing emails, contracts, and private messages. Each file revealed a deeper level of orchestration. The network's executives, legal advisors, and even some of the cast were complicit in a system designed to manufacture drama at any cost. One email described a plan to increase marital tension subtly through off-camera manipulations, while another instructed producers to capture emotional breakdowns at key filming points. Jasmine felt a chill. This wasn't just reality TV. It was psychological engineering. Rasheeda, meanwhile, focused on media strategy. She contacted trusted journalists and shared verified evidence, ensuring the story would be reported accurately. The reaction was overwhelming. News outlets around the world covered the revelations, highlighting how reality shows often exploit personal relationships for profit. Fans rallied behind the trio, praising their courage and integrity. The hashtags #FrostTruth and #RealityCheck began trending, with supporters calling for accountability across the entire industry. Kirk took a more personal approach. He reached out to former producers, hoping to encourage them to come forward. Some were hesitant, fearing lawsuits or blacklisting, but others, motivated by guilt, began sharing their own stories anonymously. One former editor admitted, "We were told exactly how to manipulate scenes. The narrative was never organic. We were part of the machine, and we regret it." Kirk realized that the chain of manipulation extended much farther than anyone had guessed, involving multiple layers of deception. Amid this, a new twist emerged. Jasmine received another anonymous message. This one included a flash drive containing unseen footage from various seasons. Some clips revealed behind-the-scenes conversations where producers explicitly coached Kirk and Rasheeda, scripting their reactions to situations that were supposed to be spontaneous. Other clips showed whispered instructions given to supporting cast members to stir jealousy and drama. The level of control was staggering, and Jasmine felt a mixture of anger and vindication. All the critics who called her manipulative were now forced to confront the truth. The deception was systemic. The trio decided to release a second, more comprehensive video. This one wasn't just a confession or a statement, it was a full expose, showing the emails, recordings, and hidden footage alongside their own commentary. The video opened with Jasmine, her expression solemn but resolute. "For years, our lives were manipulated, edited, and broadcast as entertainment," she began. "What you saw on camera was only part of the story, crafted to keep you watching and to profit at our expense." Rasheeda added, "We were told to act, to feel, to forgive, and to fight, all under instruction. Now you're seeing what really happened behind the scenes." Kirk concluded, voice heavy, "We participated, yes, but we were also guided, coerced, and sometimes misled. The truth is bigger than any storyline you've ever seen." The response was explosive. Millions watched within hours. Journalists debated the implications, and former reality stars began speaking out about similar manipulation. The public narrative shifted dramatically. Instead of blaming the individuals, people began questioning the ethics of reality television production itself. Networks faced pressure to be transparent, and discussions about the psychological toll on cast members became mainstream. Yet even as they gained public support, the trio faced threats. Messages arrived warning them to stop digging or don't release more footage. Some were vague, others direct, hinting that certain executives were willing to go to great lengths to protect their secrets. Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk realized that their pursuit of truth could come at personal risk, but they were determined. They had come too far to turn back. In the midst of this, the mysterious shadowed figure reappeared, requesting another meeting. This time, the location was a discreet office in the city center. Jasmine, wary but resolute, agreed. The figure revealed themselves to be a former senior producer, who had left the network years earlier and witnessed everything firsthand. "You've only scratched the surface," they said. "There's more manipulation, more cover-ups, and people still profiting from the deception. If you want the full story, you need to be prepared for what it will do to your reputation and safety." Jasmine nodded, determined. "We've survived this far. We can handle the truth." As the three regrouped to discuss the revelations, they realized the implications extended far beyond their own experiences. The manipulation they uncovered was not isolated, it was a blueprint used across multiple shows, with countless cast members unknowingly playing roles in narratives engineered purely for ratings. This knowledge empowered them but also weighed heavily. Exposing the truth meant challenging a powerful system, risking careers, and confronting personal trauma head-on. Despite the danger, they pressed forward. They coordinated with legal advisors, journalists, and supporters, meticulously documenting everything. Each step was calculated, every release timed to maximize transparency while minimizing legal repercussions. The world watched in awe as a reality TV narrative once dominated by scandal, lies, and fabricated conflict transformed into a story of resilience, truth, and accountability. But the anonymous messages continued, each one hinting at deeper layers of deception. There were whispers of undisclosed financial arrangements, hidden relationships, and even recordings that could further implicate high-level executives. The trio understood that their battle was ongoing. This was no longer just about reclaiming their story, it was about dismantling a system built on exploitation. And as Atlanta buzzed with speculation, debate, and admiration, Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk prepared for the next chapter. They knew the stakes were higher than ever, but together, they felt unstoppable. The Frost saga had shifted from scandal to revolution, and the world was watching, waiting to see how far they would go to reveal the truth in its entirety. The tension escalated as the Frost trio realized that the stakes had grown even higher than they initially imagined. After releasing their second XBUs, private messages and leaked tips suggested that some producers and network executives were actively trying to suppress evidence. Jasmine received another package, this one containing an encrypted hard drive, labeled simply, "The Full Archive." She hesitated before opening it, knowing that what lay inside could either cement their victory or create unimaginable backlash. Inside were hundreds of hours of behind-the-scenes footage, emails, and financial records, showing exactly how scenes were manipulated, cast members coached, and conflicts engineered for maximum drama. The scale of control was staggering. Rasheeda watched with her jaw tight, her mind racing. "They controlled everything," she muttered, scrolling through recordings where Kirk was given specific lines, gestures, even facial expressions to deliver at key moments. "And we never knew the half of it." Kirk, sitting beside her, rubbed his forehead. "We thought we were making our own choices, but even our apologies, fights, reconciliations, they scripted it all." The trio felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and vindication. The truth had always been there, hidden behind layers of editing and manipulation, but now they had irrefutable proof. They decided to go public with the archive, but cautiously. Each file was reviewed, timestamps verified, and legal counsel consulted. They created a plan for a multi-part release, ensuring that each piece of evidence told a story without exposing anyone to unnecessary harm. The first video dropped, showing producers instructing cast members to heighten tension or create jealousy triggers, paired with commentary from Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk explaining how these instructions impacted their personal lives. Fans were stunned. Hashtags like #FrostExposed and #RealityTV Unmasked trended worldwide. As the internet buzzed, journalists dug deeper. Investigative reports revealed that the manipulation was part of a larger pattern across multiple reality shows. Confirming the trio's worst fears, other former cast members stepped forward, sharing similar experiences. The narrative shifted from mere scandal to systemic exploitation. With the Frost trio positioned at the center of a cultural reckoning, their courage inspired others, and soon social media was flooded with personal accounts of reality TV abuses from across the globe. But the exposure came with consequences. The network responded aggressively, issuing cease and desist letters and threatening legal action. Anonymous messages warned them to stop releasing material or face personal repercussions. Despite the pressure, Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk refused to back down. They knew the public had the right to see the truth, and they were determined to protect each other while exposing the industry's practices. In a surprising twist, a former executive from the network reached out, requesting a confidential meeting. They claimed to have additional evidence that could further validate the trio's claims. The meeting took place in a secure location, and the executive revealed more internal communications, meals detailing plans to manipulate viewer perception, payoffs to cast members for compliance, and strategies to discredit anyone who might expose the truth. The extent of the deception was broader than even the trio had imagined. With each revelation, the trio's bond strengthened. They realized that their personal grievances had become part of a larger fight against systemic abuse. Together, they mapped out a release schedule that would reveal the full extent of manipulation while protecting their privacy and safety. Each video, statement, and interview was coordinated, with legal teams ensuring accuracy and minimizing exposure to retaliation. Amidst this whirlwind, fan reactions were overwhelming. Millions watched each new release, discussing, debating, and sharing their own experiences. Celebrities weighed in, praising the trio for their bravery. Media outlets described the unfolding events as a turning point for reality television, with some calling it the most important exposé in the history of the genre. The public was no longer merely entertained, they were engaged, outraged, and demanding accountability. Yet, even with the growing support, the anonymous figure who had initially delivered the first batch of evidence remained a mystery. New messages hinted at further secrets, including undisclosed financial arrangements, hidden recordings, and unreported manipulations. The trio understood that while they had reclaimed some control over their narrative, the full story was still unfolding. Every piece of evidence released opened new questions, ensuring that the public's attention and the industry's scrutiny remained fixed firmly on them. As Atlanta's skyline glimmered under the night sky, Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk convened one last time in a private space. They reviewed the archive, plotted the next steps, and reaffirmed their commitment to truth. Despite the exhaustion, fear, and uncertainty, they were unified. The Frost saga had evolved from a personal struggle into a movement, one that demanded transparency, accountability, and justice. And while the journey was far from over, one thing was clear: the trio would no longer be pawns in someone else's story. They were the authors now, and the world was watching. You've watched the videos, you've read the revelations, and you've seen the truth unfold right before your eyes. What happened with Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk isn't just a story about reality television. It's a story about manipulation, control, and courage. It's about people who were used as entertainment, whose private lives were broadcast as spectacle, and who, against all odds, chose to reclaim their story. They could have stayed silent, they could have accepted the narrative created for them, but instead, they stood up, they spoke out, and they showed the world what happens when you refuse to be controlled. And now, you're part of it. Yes, you, the viewer, the fan, the person who has followed every twist, every leak, every explosive revelation. Your attention matters. Your voice matters. The moment you hit play, you're not just watching, you're witnessing accountability in action. The Frost saga, with all its drama, betrayal, and emotional turbulence, isn't just their story. It's a mirror of how media can manipulate truth, how power can exploit trust, and how courage can disrupt it. You've seen how systems were designed to pit people against each other, to profit from pain, and to create chaos that benefits everyone but those living it. Now it's your choice. Do you continue to watch passively, or do you engage, comment, and let your opinion shape the conversation? Think about it. Every like, every comment, every share is more than a click. It's a signal that stories like these cannot be silenced. When Jasmine posted her first expos, fans erupted, hashtags trended, and the world watched in disbelief. That energy comes from people like you participating, from people who refuse to accept the first narrative they're given. Your engagement amplifies the truth. It forces the networks, the producers, and the executives to recognize that manipulation won't go unnoticed. It sends a message that the public will not tolerate lies disguised as reality, that you demand authenticity, transparency, and respect for those whose lives are put on display. And the story isn't over. The anonymous messages, the hidden footage, the leaked emails, they all point to a larger system still operating behind the scenes. The more eyes on this, the more accountability emerges. Your role matters because the people controlling these narratives thrive on silence. They depend on viewers who accept edited realities without question. When you comment, when you share, when you discuss this with friends or on social media, you're breaking that silence. You're creating a ripple effect that can reach far beyond Atlanta, beyond the Frost family, beyond a single television network. This is also a moment to reflect on what courage looks like. Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk risked everything, their reputations, their relationships, and their personal safety to reveal the truth. It wasn't easy. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a storyline scripted for entertainment. They faced threats, anonymous warnings, and legal intimidation. Yet they persisted. And by watching this content, by engaging with it, by supporting it, you're participating in that courage. You're saying to the world that truth is worth defending, that exploitation for profit is unacceptable, and that people who stand up for themselves and others deserve recognition and solidarity. So here's what you can do. Don't just scroll past. Don't just watch passively. Engage. Comment your thoughts about what you've seen. Do you believe the revelations? Do you have questions about what was manipulated and why? Do you think the networks should be held accountable? Your comments create conversation. Your conversation creates awareness. Your awareness builds pressure. Pressure creates change. This is how stories like the Frost saga don't just remain entertainment, they become catalysts for accountability. Share the videos with friends, family, and social media followers. Every share spreads the message further, reaching people who may have never questioned how reality television operates. Every share challenges the status quo and reminds networks that viewers are not passive consumers. They are active participants in shaping narrative integrity. When thousands, tens of thousands, even millions share, the cumulative effect cannot be ignored. It forces an industry that thrives on manipulation to pause, reconsider, and potentially reform. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing isn't just about notifications, it's about staying informed, staying connected, and staying engaged. It ensures that you're among the first to witness any updates, any new revelations, or any further exposures that may come to light. The Frost saga has proven that the story continues beyond the initial scandal, that the truth is layered, and that every development matters. Being subscribed allows you to follow it in real time, giving your voice the power to echo at the moment it counts most. Engagement also builds community. In the comment sections, in discussion threads, and across social media, fans and viewers are connecting over shared outrage, surprise, and admiration. This is your space to express your opinions, your interpretations, and your support. It's where you can debate, reflect, and even share personal experiences that relate to manipulation, deception, or media influence. Your voice matters not just to the narrative, matters to the community. Together, you create a network of accountability, solidarity, and awareness. Remember, this is bigger than reality TV. It's about media literacy, about understanding how narratives are constructed, and about recognizing that what you see on screen may not always reflect reality. Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk's courage has given you the tools to question, analyze, and seek truth. By liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing, you're not only supporting them, you're participating in a cultural moment that could redefine how media operates. And finally, stay vigilant. New revelations may come, new footage may surface, and new voices may emerge to add layers to the story. Your engagement ensures that these stories are heard, respected, and discussed openly. Don't let the next chapter unfold without your attention. The Frost saga has shown that silence benefits manipulation, while awareness benefits accountability. Your actions, small as they may seem, amplify truth and ensure that stories like this one have real impact. So now, take a moment, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment your honest thoughts, share it widely, be part of the conversation. Your participation is what keeps the truth alive, what forces accountability, and what ensures that no story, no matter how carefully constructed by those in power, can remain hidden forever. Jasmine, Rasheeda, and Kirk stood up for themselves. Stand up with them in your own way. Be informed, be engaged, and most importantly, be part of the movement that refuses to let manipulation go unchallenged. The Frost saga continues, and the world is watching, but with your voice, your perspective, and your attention, you become part of that story too. Don't let this moment pass. Engage, speak, share, subscribe. Let the world know that truth matters, that manipulation will be called out, and that courage like theirs deserves your support. Be loud, be active, be visible. The story isn't just theirs anymore, it belongs to everyone willing to see, understand, and participate in the fight for honesty. Your engagement is the proof that the public will not be silenced, and that those who exploit others for entertainment will face scrutiny, exposure, and accountability. The Frost saga has changed reality television forever, and your voice ensures it stays that way. You've seen the truth. You've witnessed the courage. Now act. Like, comment, share, subscribe, join the conversation, amplify the voices that refuse to be silenced. Be part of history. The Frost saga is ongoing, but with your attention and your action, you ensure that the next chapters are written in truth, integrity, and transparency. Don't just watch, participate. Don't just follow, engage. Be part of the movement that proves the audience matters as much as the story, that the viewers have power, and that courage, when combined with attention, can change the world. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and most importantly, stay loud. This is your call to action. This is your chance to make a difference. The Frost saga has given you the story. Now, give it your voice. The time is now. Give it your voice. The time is now. Your voice matters. The